A lotus is a flower rooted in the mud that rises through and above to become a beautiful bloom. This is a podcast sharing mine and other stories of how we've done the same, choosing to rise above our circumstances to bloom. I'm your host, Amber. Let's get started. So this is my friend, Jessie. We know each other through WAT is how I met you in Queens. Your husband and my husband were both in the first group. And so I remember when they had the Women's Day, that's when we met, I think.
Yeah, that first.
Yeah, because I remember there was a dinner that we went to, but I don't know if I met you then. I remember meeting you at the Women's Day that we had before Queens was even a thing. And then there were a couple of retreats and us hanging out in Mexico and all that.
Yeah, that's a good memory.
I know. So yeah. And, but now recently we're both in a coaching group together where this is your third year in it. Right?
This is my third year. Yeah.
Okay. And then this is my first year. Ben did it last year. So this is his second year, which is really cool. I love that there are so many couples in it this year.
Yeah. Last year, I think, was the first year of the couples.
Yeah.
And so it kind of stuck.
Nice. I love it. So if you don't mind, I'd love for you to tell me a little bit of your story, how you grew up, and just whatever you feel comfortable as far as detail goes.
Okay. Yeah. So Jessie Iacono. I born and raised here in Utah.
Okay.
In the faith tradition of Mormonism. And I spent half my life in Utah County and then the other half in Salt Lake County. And that's where my husband and I live now.
Okay.
And we own a construction business together and operate that in Draper and the surrounding areas with our 3 children. So would you prefer I kind of start with my story or just a little bit more about my life now?
Your story, if you don't mind. So wait, really quick. So did you mainly grow up in Utah County?
When I was a kid, yeah.
Okay.
So like half my childhood, I guess I should say.
That makes sense. I feel like there's a little bit of like cultural, for those that live in Utah or are familiar with Utah, there's almost a little bit of cultural difference with Utah County versus Salt Lake County.
There is.
And so sometimes it's helpful to kind of clarify of like when people start describing their childhood, I'm like, wait, which area did you grow up in? Okay, that explains a little bit.
Right, a little bit. Which was the right journey for the path my life took.
Yeah, exactly.
Being exposed to many things.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So yeah, growing up, Utah County, Mormonism. My husband and I met in high school. So we have been, Jerem is friends with Ben. So we've been married 23 years, have 3 kids, teenagers. Yeah. And I'll share a little bit about my story, but just want to say that I just love being a teen mom. I'm just in that phase right now.
When we were at a retreat recently and you said that you absolutely love it, I'm like, okay, that gives me hope, because you hear so many people who are like, oh, this is the hardest. I thought them being toddlers was hard. This is even harder. And I feel like as a mom, I think sometimes we forget that not to be so like pessimistic about it sometimes. Like, yeah, it is hard. And I mean, the reason I say that is because I remember when I was pregnant and people would be like, oh, you think you're tired now? Just wait. Or when Beckett would do something, oh, you think he's trouble now? Just wait. And it's like that just wait phrase. I hate that so much. And I don't think people really think about the weight that it carries, especially with a younger mom and you're looking to other people who have experienced the phases you're going through. And so when you said that, I was like, okay, I'm going to hold on to that little nugget.
That one actually gives me hope.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I have found myself recently like saying to young moms, like, it goes so fast, like enjoy it. But they don't want to hear that. Yeah. So I'm almost like, stop saying that.
But at the same time, you're just like, please.
But being in that phase, I have an 18-year-old senior graduating this year. I am feeling like all of those emotions.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like, it's exactly what it needs to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though I wanted to rush through it when they were younger, doesn't change anything now.
Yeah, exactly. You still have some of the memories.
And you still experience the kind of the grief and the sorrow of the lasts, no matter if you were a really, really present mom with your younger kids, you still experience it.
I was talking to my dentist, actually, he's been my dentist for probably 16 years, I think. And so he's seen me through different phases. And Beckett went with me. And it was his first time meeting Beckett. And he's like, I remember when you were pregnant with him. And oh my gosh, and his kids are grown. He has 3 of them are married. One's on a mission. He's like, we're empty nesters. And he said that they were talking to his mom, or his wife has been a stay-at-home mom the whole time. And they were talking to one of their friends who's a therapist, and told them that when your kids leave the house, there's a grieving process, a grieving of that time in your life, and realizing now you have all this time to figure out who you are and how important it is to honor those emotions. And I was like, oh, that doesn't surprise me, because I feel like there's a grieving process for everything. Like even when your kid starts saying a word correctly and they used to say it a super cute way, you're like, oh, you're growing up. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot. But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt with.
Oh, there was no interruption. It's just a reminder too that like stories are not linear.
Yeah,
they really aren't.
True.
We might be doing a little bit of bouncing around.
I'm for it.
Okay. So I guess a little bit of background just to kind of talk about what I'm doing right now versus kind of where I came from. So I always had ambitions of being a working mom. Like I knew I wanted to be a mom, but I also knew that I wanted to have a career. Yeah. And so for me, it was like growing up in the 80s, like I was born in 81. Yeah. So it was like the power suits with the big,
shoulder
pads, and I like designing women and like all of these television shows that like
I love designing women. I totally forgot about that show. Oh my gosh.
I thought you might. Yeah. But just like that was a lot of the television shows that were on, the movies, they were kind of about like these women in these, business roles, and their lives just looked so glamorous. And that's what I knew that I wanted. I wanted to be a mom and of course that was the lens I was shown through, Mormonism of, you got to want to be a mom and you got to, want to stay home. And that was kind of my big, I guess, first realization that I was maybe a little bit different. Yeah. Or that maybe, my life wasn't going to be what I thought it was going to be. And so I always like kind of idolized, that ability to work and like have my own money and like my own life. And then also, be able to create, something beautiful at home. And so that was kind of like the lens that I was growing up through of seeing this, like these were opportunities and choices. And then here's opportunities and choices. And it was this really big parallel between a religious upbringing and then what I saw out in the world. Mm-hmm. And so that really, it really influenced me. And so when I was younger, I did have a lot of health problems though.
Okay.
And so that was something that was challenging because I would always have these like goals and dreams and aspirations, but then I would feel like I couldn't do that because I was sick a lot. And so that was another, looking back, that's something I'm able to see that was very important to like where I'm at today.
How old were you when you were going through that? Was that like when you were little, like 4 or 5, or was it as you were older and a teen?
So it started around 6 years old when I started like feeling sick. Okay. So I didn't have a diagnosis or anything. And so I just thought, and my mom thought that I like was hypoglycemic. Okay. So I would just feel really weak and nauseous in the mornings when I would wake up. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times I would throw up before school, and it was kind of like a pattern where like I would wake up, I would feel sick, I usually would throw up and then I'd have to like get feeling better before I could go to school.
Yeah.
So it really interrupted like my normal, hey, you go to school and you do this and you do your homework and you feel good. And so it was my school years, elementary, middle school, and even high school were really challenging with dealing with health problems that seemingly had no cause or cure.
Which I feel like would be even more, that would add another element to it, another level of not knowing what it was. I don't know. I just feel like something like that would, for me personally, if it didn't have a diagnosis or you weren't really sure what it was, I would have doubts of like, am I making this up? Is this just me? Maybe I wouldn't know the vocabulary, but like, am I manifesting this type of a thing? Mm-hmm. Was that ever something that you...
Not until I was older and I started my healing journey.
Yeah.
But when I was younger, it was just like my mom had a lot of health problems and was sick. Okay. So it was like, oh, you're like your mom, right? Yeah. So she dealt with some similar things. Hers was more like migraines. Okay. But she was in bed a lot of my life. Yeah. And so for me, it was like, oh, this is just something I'm going to have to deal with. Mm-hmm. But she had chosen to just like, hey, this is my life. So I'm going to, create whatever I can around that, and didn't like really have any aspirations to just, to be a mom and do the best that she could. Yeah. But for me, I saw that was going to be a challenge if I didn't want to stay home and didn't want to, have more time to just be in the sickness or whatever it was. I needed to find a cure. I needed to.
Ooh. That's interesting that at such a young age you understood this is something that I need to factor in to either overcome or figure out a way to still accomplish the things I want to do, instead of it being, this is my life and I'll do what I can around it. Yeah. Like building your whole life around it. You were figuring out a way of, I'm still going to do these things. I just need to figure out how to manage this so I can do this. Yeah. Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah. So after I would say the teen years were the hardest, because anytime there's any other emotions going on, it can always make any chronic illness or any illness worse, right? Yeah. Like when you don't feel good, and then on top of that, you have like teenager stuff. Yeah. Right. So the teenage years really were challenging. I had to like start school second or third period, all through high school. I didn't have to, it was a choice. And then I like took online class, or not online, they didn't have that at the time. I took like packets like through home study so I could still graduate, even though I just wasn't at school as much as, the other kids. And so I never had the best grades. Mm-hmm. But once I got into college, I felt a lot more like accountability. I finally got out of my the home that I grew up in, which I really learned how important environment is. Mm-hmm. And that's something that's really become important to me now. And how I create is realizing like, and being so aware of the environment I'm in. Yeah. And so when I got out of my home environment, I really, like, life really took off. Yeah. I felt better. I felt a lot more in choice and in control.
Yeah. That's so interesting that you say that. I never... how sometimes you think about things of like, oh yeah, and then I left and things changed, but I never thought about the detail of that specifically, because I think I thought about it. So when I moved out of my home with my mom, I lived with my mom and my stepdad, and they had both relapsed, and I had been wanting to move out for a while. But I just didn't have, I had the money, but my mom needed me to stay because she couldn't afford the rent if I moved out. Yeah. And then shit kind of hit the fan, and my stepdad got taken back to prison, and she was in her addiction too. And so then now, and I told her, I was like, I'm done. I'm moving out. I don't want to live with you anymore. I don't want to be part of this anymore. And when I moved out on my own, I think I just thought of it as like, I have more control now. And so that's why things are different. But now with the knowledge that I have of energy, that makes so much more sense of why things were so much different after moving out. Oh, that's interesting that you said that. Now I'm going to go home and like think about, oh yeah, that makes sense too.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
The things that we're not always aware of.
Yeah.
Right. And can't always create meaning around. Sometimes it's hard to do that in the moment.
Yeah. That's so interesting. So when you went to college, did you just move out on your own or did you go live in the dorms or what?
So I had to support myself. So I moved out and got a couple of jobs. So it sounds like you've had substance abuse and addiction in your past. So my mom's sick in bed and my dad's an alcoholic. So it feels like they're stuck just trying to survive. And then the minute I had a choice of like, okay, so they split up my senior year.
Okay.
And I'm the baby too. So a lot of times, of course, parents will
wait till
the kids are there. So it was like literally the summer.
Yeah.
I graduated, my mom moved out.
Man.
Which I was so glad for her because that was kind of her way of getting out of the habits she'd been in and really understanding her own sickness.
Yeah.
So she did do that, which was great for me. And so I had a choice. I could stay with my dad or move out. And I was like, I'm moving out. And that would require me to support myself. And so I went to night school. So I worked 2 jobs. I worked at Discover Card, which was amazing.
I worked there too.
Did you?
Yeah. I worked in the student loans department.
Did you do student loans? I was in collections.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. It was the perfect job for me. And then I waited tables at night and then I went, and then as soon as I could, I quit waiting tables. And then I started college at night.
So funny. I feel like there's so many more parallels to our story than I realized because that's what I did when I moved out on my own. I couldn't afford the rent if I didn't have 2 jobs.
Yeah.
And so I worked as a cocktail waitress and a hookah girl 3 nights a week. And then I had my full-time job working for the hospital during the day. And so that's the way that I paid my rent.
Thank goodness for being 19 and having energy.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if I could do that now.
Yeah. That was not sustainable. I knew it wasn't going to be sustainable. So I'm sure it wasn't for you either.
Yeah.
But Jerem and I we were still together. We dated all through high school. And then I moved out and after I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to school and work full time. And I'm not going to be able to do that if I don't either move back home, which I had the option of doing that, and at the time, Jerem was going to school. He was still living at home.
Yeah.
So we just decided, we got engaged.
Yeah.
And then pooled our resources and our money and just made it work. So we both worked full time. I went to school at night, and then he always had 2 jobs too before we had kids. So the 2 of us just really like, hey, we're going to do this. Yeah. We're going to figure this out. And
pull all the resources.
Pull the resources. So yeah, so we have one of those really fun high school sweetheart stories that just, we both like looked at our families and how we were raised, and we like found each other and we're like, let's get away from these people and let's go like create this life of our dreams. Yeah, and that's kind of what we've done.
Oh, I love that so much.
So it was great
Yeah. Do you think, for me, growing up, there were some things where it was very obvious of this for sure is not going to be a part of my life. But there were some things where, like, just as a parent, I didn't want kids until Ben and I started dating, because I just thought this world is so terrible. There's so many awful things. And I don't know that I would be a good parent. I didn't have a good example of parent. So what kind of parent would I be? And it wasn't until I met Ben that I was like, oh, I can actually choose what kind of parent I want to be. And I can choose things that I want to be different in my life. I don't know. I just felt like there were some things where there were a very conscious effort of this is going to be different in my life. Yeah. Do you feel like did you guys sit down and just decide these are the things we do want, these are the things we don't want, and make a plan?
We really did. I feel like kids these days are doing such a better job of that. They're like creating plans and having a therapist before they even get married. No.
I know.
I think we did the very best that we could, and it was like the most important thing was just that we were just deeply in love and just that energy of anything is possible.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes we still do ride that energy.
I love that.
But we shared with each other kind of like how many kids do you want? What do you want to do? And I was really, at the time, I didn't have kids, but I knew that I wanted to be a working, parent. And so I was like, I'm going to pursue a career. And so, will you help support me while I go to get my degree?
Yeah.
And I'll help support you while you get your degree. And that was just something that we decided to do. We're going to support each other through school, and we're not going to have kids until we graduate.
Yeah.
And that was something that we were just like, this is what we're doing, because we know how important it is to have stability.
Yeah.
And we both had so much instability. His family more had financial instability, and my family more had emotional instability. And so it was, okay, how can we provide for each other what we didn't have? And for me, like, I needed emotional stability, and he was like my rock. Yeah. And I always was going to be a help, a support as a provider, and wanted a partnership marriage. Yeah. And so it kind of helped with his financial instability growing up. And so that kind of was like the basis that we built our
That's so
partnership
cool.
on.
It's like you saw each other's strengths and weaknesses and how to.
And I don't even know if we did. Like, I could look back and totally see it, but at the time it was just like natural.
And
it was like, like, of course I'll support you, but I'm going to be really emotional, and I'm going to need a lot of help
I'll support you financially.
if I'm going to try to do all of this, And so that's kind of how we, got going. And I did, because I didn't have a whole lot of stability, I really looked to religion as that stability. And so at the time, Jerem was wanting to kind of get away from religion because it was like shoved down his throat.
Yeah.
We were kind of at a crossroads at that point, because he didn't want anything to do with it, and was very, very science-minded. And so lots of questions. And me, it was more like, I didn't have any stability. And all the families I saw out there that were like the Mormon families, and they looked stable to me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I think that's what I want. I think I want the religious stability of what I was, shown, not in my home, but in other homes. Yeah. And then I saw that in his family, because they seemed more stable and they were, religious.
Yeah.
So I was like, I think I want to like raise our kids in the church. And he was like, okay.
If that's what you want.
All right, I love you if that's what you want. And like, I'll try.
Yeah.
So we got married young. I was 20 and he was 22.
Okay.
And then 4 years later, we started going to church and like got sealed in the temple. And we still hadn't had kids.
Yeah.
But we'd worked, and we'd built our first house. So we had a lot of financial stability.
Yeah.
Before we decided to have kids.
I think I did a paper on religion when I was in college, and it was interesting because a lot of people who join later in life, or who pick it up later in life, whether that's like in your teenage years or adulthood, it's usually, if it's not because of the family, like your parents taking you into the religion, it's usually because there's a sense of community or something about that religion that they're seeing that they want for their family or for themselves. And it's usually something to do with community, whether that's like the emotional stability or whatnot. And I noticed my mom actually just got baptized 4 years ago into the LDS religion.
Oh, right.
And it's like clear as day for me. And honestly, it's what's keeping her clean. And so I'm like, sure, keep going. Have you gone to church this week? Like,
yeah,
this is what's keeping you.
AA.
Yeah, exactly. So that we can have the relationship that we have. So I'm fully supportive of it. But it's also very, very clear to me of this is the community and the family that she didn't feel like she had growing up. And now she feels like she has. Mm-hmm. So I think that's interesting that you knew, like, I want this stability. Yeah. And these guys seem to have it. So let's do that.
Yeah, they seem to have it.
Yeah.
And it also was like made his family very happy because I knew that's what his parents wanted for him. Yeah. It made my mom very happy because that's what she wanted for me because she didn't have that. And she equated it to, well, I didn't marry somebody who was religious and like held these values. And that's why we've had so much instability. And I'm like, maybe she's right. And then of course, after years and years, realize that, things aren't always what they seem.
Yeah. And also probably that you don't necessarily need that to have the stability that you want.
Absolutely. Well, and also seeing the parallels between if you want to be in this religion, there's like these rules there, and they're the unspoken rules. They're the social rules.
Yeah.
And what I didn't realize at the time was I wasn't going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And I was fine with the not drinking and I was fine with the not drinking coffee. And, I was fine with all of those things, but it was, you should stay home with your kids. And like, if you're a working mom, you're kind of on the outskirts.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that until I got older and until I had kids. And so it was all fine until I started seeing, oh, wait a minute. And so when that happened, I started like questioning everything about the conditioning and about like what I really believed in. And so
how is that? What's your, I don't know what the word is. How do you approach religion when it comes to your kids? Like, and their curiosity about, or have they had any curiosity about it?
They have. So fast forward, we were active for 15 years of our marriage. We had 3 kids, raised them in the religion while my husband and I were building a custom home business together. We were working. We really did create the partnership marriage that we wanted. Yeah. And that, so like we're both home. I was home more obviously when they were younger because, having the children and taking care of them, and he worked a little bit more, but as the kids got into school, it became very much, we were, partners, completely partnership, like at home and at work. And so that we had created that stability there. And then really it was more of, with the kids as they started getting older and we started listening to what was being taught, we started realizing, oh, they're coming up against the same things that we're dealing with now of, I don't want you to go to church and be told this because we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a very balanced partnership marriage, and that's not shown in very many religions.
Yeah.
And so it was that kind of those years when they were like, 8, 9, 10, where we're like, something's got to change.
Yeah.
And so that's when we started questioning. We, sat our kids down and kind of like, hey, we're in a faith transition. What does that mean to you? Yeah. And so because they were all under 12, I don't think that they really knew. But now what's so incredible about the space that we've created for them is they ask anything about religion that they see, about God, about about authority. Yeah. Right. About like intuition versus, this Holy Ghost that's outside of me.
So much that they're asking questions about that.
So we're having all of those questions now, which is so incredible, to not tell them what we think they should believe, but to ask them what feels right. And if that aligns with a religion, great. If it doesn't, great.
Oh, I love that so much. I think that's something that Ben and I are learning for ourselves right now. And I think that it's so important that young people learn how to trust and know themselves on a deeper level. And then if religion gets pulled into that and that's something they want to do, that's great. But then they also always know that they have that capability within themselves. And I don't know. I just think that when you're outsourcing it, whether that's to other people, whether that's to something spiritual, it's a disservice to yourself. I think there's a difference between knowing that I have my intuition, and I have my right to choose, and I have all of these things within myself. And I can also be thankful for, if I'm religious, of a higher power and and all of that. Like it's an and.
Yeah.
It's not a outsourcing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's so
How
great.
is that for you now? Because you have young kids. And so
Yeah.
have they asked questions about?
Well, it's been really interesting. We don't really ever talk about God or anything like that at home, but my mom does. And so my mom will bring up things, and I think she very much wants them to go to church with her. And we've told her that we'll teach them about religion, and things in history, but we're never going to tell them that there's something definitive of God is this way, Jesus was this way, or the Holy Spirit is this way, or anything like that. It's just going to be some people believe this and some people believe that, and giving them the choice to choose, but really learning how to decide for themselves. So it hasn't really been too much of a conversation, except when my mom is around. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of funny because one time she was talking about, they say that young kids remember their life as spirits before they chose their bodies, just because it was so recent, and that sometimes they'll remember meeting Jesus in heaven. And she turned to Beckett, I think he was probably 2 or 3 maybe. And she was like, do you remember Jesus? And he goes, do you remember meeting Jesus or something like that? He was like, yeah, and macaroni. Or no, she said, do you know who Jesus is? And he said, yeah, and macaroni. And he thought that she was asking, do you know what cheese is?
What cheese is?
He's like, yeah, macaroni.
Macaroni, that's my favorite kind of cheese.
Yeah.
But you're like, okay.
Yeah. And so, Beckett has asked a few questions as far as like, what is church? Mm-hmm. Why do people go? But we haven't gotten into like the big questions yet. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting when that comes along.
And I think it's a lot more challenging when they're younger because
there's only so much they can comprehend.
And at that point, it is more about feeling. Mm-hmm. And so I have, as my kids are asking now, I'm actually looking for ways to articulate it without telling them like what I think. Yeah. And so I'm actually reading a book right now, Mary Magdalene Revealed.
Oh, I've heard of that book.
Yeah. And she says and I'm not too far into it, but one thing that she said recently that I really resonated with, and something I'm like using to teach my own kids, she said, spirituality doesn't have a hierarchy. And so what I can explain to my teenagers is religion has a hierarchy, and spirituality, and what we're connecting to now. And you get to choose how to connect to it through a spiritual hierarchy of a religion, or through anything that feels like it doesn't have a hierarchy where you belong. And so that's just kind of way of showing like sometimes we need the hierarchy to understand. Yeah. And then sometimes we don't.
Yeah. Ooh, I love that. That's good. Well, it just makes me think of, this might be a weird analogy, but it makes me think of like a math problem where some people need to know every single step of how they got to the answer. And some people just know that that's the answer.
Yeah.
And they don't have to go through every single little step to know. Yeah. That's what it is for them. I would say
that's kind of how my husband and I are. I'm the person who needs to know every step, right? Yeah. And he's the one that's just like, well, that's the answer.
That's just what it is.
And that's how we've always approached things.
That's so funny.
And in a way, that's kind of what's guided our own separate journeys, and probably why we're still married after 23 years. It's like, you take the long way, Jessie.
You can figure it out, and I'll just trust that this is the way to go.
Trust. Yeah. And so, in business and in life, it's been a good partnership.
I love that. So, tell me a little bit. I wanted to ask, you mentioned that your dad was an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. Is he still alive?
He's not.
Okay. Did he ever get sober or?
He did on and off. Mm-hmm. Just I was shown how to be a really good alcoholic, and then how to get sober, and then how to relapse over and over and over and over again. Yeah. So I spent, time in Al-Anon as a teenager and really seeing that process. And then he ultimately took his own life in 2016.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The alcoholism had gotten so bad. And
man, that's so wild. Did he ever play a role in your kids' lives? Like, do they remember him at all? Or
not really. No, unfortunately. They knew, they were at his funeral and they knew who he was, but I never wanted them to get to know him because you never knew who you were.
Yeah. That's so
who
true.
he was going to show up as. And but I have such like love for him. He's been gone almost 10 years now. And that's how I've been able to do my healing. I think sometimes it's challenging to do our healing as kids when our parents are still alive. And sometimes it's easier when they're not.
Yeah.
Although, there's opportunity either way.
Yeah.
But he's a very kind, very emotional person. And I see, and what I've learned from that was when we think our emotions are us, that's the disease.
Yeah.
So
we take that on as our personality instead of something that we're just experiencing.
Right.
Wow. I can relate to that. So I don't really have a relationship with my real dad. And it's been really interesting lately because Beckett is figuring out who that grandma and grandpa are. So he calls them Nana and Pappy are Ben's parent, our dad's parents. And then Mocha, that's what he calls my mom, is it's so cute. He couldn't say, for some reason, grandma was Maca, and then it eventually got changed to Mocha. And so now she's Mocha. And so Mocha is mom's mom, but who's your dad? And so he's been asking a lot lately about, but who's your dad? And it's kind of hard because I have a stepdad who was more of a dad to me than my real dad was. And my real dad lives in Colorado Springs, so he's not even in the state. But my stepdad is also very deep still in his addiction, so we never see him.
I see.
And my real dad, I don't think that he's clean. And I'm not sure. Like he's just going through a lot emotionally, and we just don't have a relationship. It's taken a lot of work where I don't really have anger towards him. I had a process one time where I did have a lot of anger towards him. I knew I didn't want him in my life and that my life was better because of it. And I was fine with that, but I still had so much anger about how manipulative he could be towards his own kids and how many times he let me down. And so, in the process, it was basically like, can I go back? And I'm the oldest. I have 4 younger sisters and we all have the same dad, but we have different moms. And so he has 5 kids and he's just repeated the cycle with each kid. So for me though, where I was his first, it was like, okay, can I go back to him being a 17-year-old kid and finding out he was going to be a dad? Can I go back to when he was 12, 13, 14, and his mom and dad were getting divorced and his stepdad was abusive? And then can I go to when he was now a dad and he felt like his family was being pulled apart, and like just all these different phases. And it helped me understand him a lot more and have some compassion for him reacting the way that he did, not justifying it, but definitely a lot of compassion and understanding.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting now when Beckett asks questions and I'm like, someday he might be asking more serious questions of where he wants to know this person.
Yeah.
And do I want him to know that person? If he's around even,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of, I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but it is kind of awkward now when he asks questions and I have to explain like, he's just not here. And it's also really weird for me to have a child who doesn't understand that some people's parents might not be around.
Right.
Where for me, growing up without a parent, it was like odd that people had both of their parents.
Right.
Just almost like that culture shock.
I think while my kids were younger, I didn't share a whole lot about my growing up because I didn't want them to know. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then as they get older, you realize like it's important for them to know some things.
Yeah.
Like I still haven't told my kids, about the suicide I'm like, when they find out, it'll be the right time. They didn't need to know.
Yeah.
And they still don't, because they can't understand how their lived experience can be so drastically different than mine.
Yeah.
And even, from Jerem's. And that's where I think I think that it's important to share as they ask and not overshare, but also don't have secrecy.
Yes.
And that's been really important to me.
I totally agree. That's one thing among many things that I have to commend my mom on, is that my dad was very abusive, and I witnessed some of the abuse when I was little. But she was always really great about, when I would ask questions, she would answer them to the capacity that I could understand. And she never talked bad about my dad.
That's incredible.
She was very big on making sure that whatever relationship I had with him wasn't tainted by the relationship she had with him, which I think that would take so much work.
Oh, yeah.
It would be one thing to be like, oh, it just didn't work. We just didn't love each other and we went our separate ways. But to have someone who inflicted so much physical and emotional pain, and then also be like, okay, here, you can have a relationship with them, and I'm just going to let that form into whatever it's going to be, would be so hard as a mother. Yeah.
It just is why parenthood is so wonderful, because it gives us so many opportunities to learn how to trust.
Yes.
And learn how to listen to our intuition and learn emotional maturity.
Yeah.
And, sometimes I feel like even where I'm at, my kids have a little more emotional maturity than me sometimes.
I know. Even my little 5-year-old, sometimes he'll say stuff and I'm like,
where did that come from?
Okay. We were in the car the other day, and we've been teaching Beckett how to breathe when he gets super amped up emotionally, how to breathe through it. And so Sloan was picking that up when we were in the car, and she started crying about something. And I was like, Sloan, you can calm down. It's okay. Like, trying to calm her down. And she goes, and I was like, what, are you okay? And she's like, I'm breathing.
I'm breathing
too. What?
That's incredible.
I know. So just the stuff that they pick up is so cool. So what about with your mom? Like, what's your relationship been with her now that, since she and your dad got divorced, and how's that been?
Well, it's been good. And as I heal, I think it's opened up more opportunities for us to have a relationship. And so we've always been close. She worked for me for 7 years, and it was kind of like a huge support when I was having my last child. She was working and then also helping me with my third. But it was always more of like a business relationship or arrangement. Yeah. There wasn't a whole lot of like emotional depth. And so when we left the church, I think it was really hard for her, but it's also been really great for our relationship to deepen. So I feel like as I've healed and as I've come to her and just been like asked questions, because I really want to know, how she raised me was based on how she was raised. And as I'm healing like ancestral patterns in my own life, I'm actually more inquisitive about getting to know her. Yeah. And then I think, that's translated a little bit where she's a little bit more accepting of my choices. And so it's been pretty good. So she lives close to us, and she's, more present in my kids' lives than any of their other grandparents have been. Yeah. So that's been a huge gift and a huge blessing. And
wow, that's awesome. What about, since you guys have left the religion, I know that you said that was a big thing for Jerem's family. Have they been as accepting about it all?
I think so. We're definitely not as close to them as we used to be. We used to spend a lot of time with his family. They were like, some of our best friends. And because we don't have that in common anymore, we don't spend as much time together.
It's harder to have that deeper connection. Yeah. Excuse me, little internal burp. I did want to talk a little bit about, just rewinding a little bit, your relationship with your dad and what that has looked like as far as your healing now. Because where with your mom, you're able to have conversations and ask her questions. And with him, have you been able to, I feel like with my dad, I was able to kind of go back, even without talking to him, and just the knowledge that I had of how he was raised, and be like, oh, okay, that makes sense why this happened and this happened. Have you been able to figure out any of that around him, especially since he's not around anymore?
Well, I have, as I've, when I was doing, so I did like EMDR therapy for a couple of years. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
I was able to connect with him on a spiritual level when I was in an EMDR therapy session about 4 or 5 years ago. It was very cool.
So cool.
And then just he's come to me in dreams, and the more I've learned about energy and spirit, I guess what I consider the afterlife, I feel like I've communicated with him several times, and I feel like the more I heal, the more it allows him to heal. Oh. And just kind of like, you know, how they talk about cycle disruptors and generational healers. We don't only heal what's in front of us by not passing on unhealthy, you know, coping and traditions to our kids, but it also provides our parents an opportunity to say, hey, I'm no longer holding you accountable to the person that you couldn't have been. Yeah. And so I've felt physically his growth because of my own. And so it's been really incredible.
Oh, wow. That's so cool. I actually, I know exactly what you're talking about. I felt the same thing with my grandma after she passed. There have been times where I'll be in conversations and I'll be like, oh man, I just wish my grandma would love this conversation. And I was actually I think we were just doing like a guided meditation. I don't think it was breath work, but I felt her there, and I felt her saying, I am learning. Like, I'm on this side of things, and everything, I'm learning everything because you're doing it and I get to watch you. And while I don't get to like physically talk in these conversations, I get to hear them, and it's helping me grow and heal too. And it was so beautiful. And I've had other experiences where I felt her come in of, I can feel when things click for her. Yeah. And you're like, oh, that's so great. I'm so glad.
I love that.
But that's awesome. I think that carries some hope, at least, or I hope it carries some hope for people, that just because someone passes away doesn't mean that the healing or the opportunity for healing isn't still there. I think that some people think that you have to have a conversation with someone. It has to be this face-to-face thing, and you both have to acknowledge the thing, and you both have to say your apologies, and, oh, I know I hurt you, and for healing to happen. And I think that really limits the opportunity that's really there of what healing can look like, whether that other person can play a part or is playing a part in it.
Well, that reminds me of kind of like the greatest gift I've received from having a faith transition is being able to see like Christ's teachings in a different way. And it's like forgiveness, right? Like that happens from within. And everything happens first from within. Yeah. And so once we are willing to go in and make a change or become aware of something or forgive or let go or accept or whatever it is, then we're not responsible for anything else that happens. And so knowing that, all of our relationships, right, we're providing other people a response or an opportunity to heal when we do. Yeah. And so I that's another thing that's been great, is just being able to understand and love the the teachings of Christ and not having to believe it a certain way. Yeah. And now because of that, I'm able to embody those truths in a different way. And then and then, you know, teach my kids in that way versus you do it this way because this, and instead of, you know, the opportunity to just feel of what like forgiveness is or what God really is. You know, I teach my kids, if you want to find God, go look in the mirror and like, leave it at that. You know, we discover from within first.
Oh, I love that so much. I think that that's, again, goes back to just like really not outsourcing your own power and realizing that you have so much more power. And I think that creates that ownership too of how I think sometimes we forget how in control of things we really are. And not to be like, oh, it's your fault that you have this life this way, but more of like something happened and you get to figure out and discover and decide how you want to go about handling this. Yeah. It's an opportunity. And, you said something else that I really, really loved I think, that's what it was, is especially pertaining to forgiveness. I think when you're relying on somebody else to play a factor in that or play a role in you being able to finally forgive and let go of something, they could come and they could say all of the things that you want them to say and do all of the things that you want them to do. And I don't think it would carry as much weight as when you finally decide within yourself, this is what I'm willing to let go of. This is how I'm going to handle this. And you decide within yourself that you have that forgiveness or that understanding of the situation. It just sits so differently.
Yeah. You stay in choice regardless of what they choose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you're not relying on somebody else for your happiness and ability to move forward.
Yeah.
I love this conversation so much. Do you have siblings, you said, right? You were the youngest one?
Yeah.
What has been their approach to all of this, or have they had similar experiences or?
I think similar. So I have 3 older siblings. I have a brother. He chose to stay in religion. Very much reminds me of your mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great stability.
Yeah.
And then I have my oldest sister passed away also from alcoholism.
Wow.
So she kind of followed that path. Wow. And then my sister that's just older than me, she and I are very much alike. We're despite all of these challenges, we are going to make, this beautiful life that we want. And so she and I are very close, and we've been on very similar journeys, but of healing and of, making our lives what we want them to be and teaching our kids through different lenses than we were shown.
So, I love that.
So it's good to have support.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think that it's always, I remember growing up thinking I wished a lot of times that I had a sibling that had gone through everything with me.
How far apart were you with your others?
So I'm the oldest, so I'm 7 years, 9 years, 10 years, and 23 years older than them. So there's a big age gap. The 3 in the middle are super close age-wise, and they've almost always lived kind of in the same area. Especially the first 2 that are younger than me, they've always lived in Colorado for the most part. So for the first 7 years, I didn't have anybody who was right there with me going through all of the things. And where we had different parents, we just weren't in each other's worlds all of the time. And even up until probably a few years ago, I still had the thought of, I just wish that I had like a sibling who had been through all of these things with me so that I could just talk to, like they would get it on that deeper level. Mm-hmm. And then I was at a retreat, and one of my friend's husband, he's learned how to do somatic therapy and healing. And so he had me do this visualization of going back to a memory that I have of my dad abusing my mom when I was 3 years old, and just hearing her cry and how I knew something was wrong and being afraid. And then he had me come in as an adult, and I could feel myself sitting in that car and looking over at younger me. And then I could feel myself as younger me in my car seat. I felt the seatbelt and everything, and looking over and seeing older me. And it was so interesting to change that memory and realize this whole time that I've been wishing that I had someone, now as an adult where I've done so much healing and so much work around all of these things, I get to go back and be that person who understood and could hold myself and give that version of myself exactly what I needed that the adults around me weren't capable of giving me. And it's just been really interesting to have I think that some people may think of that as lonely, of like, oh, I'm the only person, but it's so comforting to me to know like I am the person that I always needed.
Yeah.
And I get to be that person for myself, even when I was younger.
Yeah, absolutely. What a great experience.
It was, yeah, it was wild. And it was so good.
Yeah.
It was huge for me.
Well, you taking accountability for yourself.
Yeah.
And then also being able to see the mirrors of those close relationships to you and not, and do what you chose to do from that versus continuing.
The cycle.
And then, of feeling like you were possibly a victim versus.
Yeah. I think for a long time I did feel like a victim. And then I realized that I get to choose how my life turns out. And I think that switch was probably, I think that I always had little glimpses of that feeling, that I'm always in choice, that it's my choice if something happens, something different happens. But I think it was watching one of my sisters and then watching my stepbrother fall into addiction and what it was doing for their life. Yeah. And realizing like, you're an adult, like at a certain point, it's not your parents' decisions that's shaping your life. Maybe they had an influence, but they're not choosing. Your parents aren't the one who are choosing for you to do the drugs, move into this place, date that person, have, do all of these different things. Like you're making the choices to put yourself in those situations.
Yeah.
And you get to make the choice to not be in those situations too. Wow. And so, yeah, there was a lot of, I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I knew that I didn't want to live the same life that they did. I wanted to be different.
Wow. Is that one of your sisters that you share the same dad, but?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So,
and then one of his other sons from?
No, my stepdad's son.
Oh, your stepdad's son.
Yeah. So my stepdad has a son and a daughter, and we pretty much grew up together as well. And yeah, it's just been interesting to see them and he's older than me. My brother's older than me. So it's interesting to see him just repeating cycles. Mm-hmm. And every single time he's like, this is it, Amber. I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. Like I want to be a part of my kid's life and all of these things. And then it just happens again. And then same thing with my sister, where it's like over and over again. And I think she's doing okay now, but she's just gone through that cycle so many times. And it's wild to see people. It's hard not to want to like shake them and be like, you have a choice. Yeah. Stop doing this.
So true.
Because it's so clear when you're on the other side of it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, you can know that you were that example to your kids of, hey, this is how I was raised. This was my lived experience, and it doesn't have to be yours.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of family is we get to be those supports. We get to be those accountability partners, and we get to also use that as hey, I can do this, or I don't have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to see the differences and the parallels.
Yeah. I love that. One question that I like to ask everybody before they come on, or not before they come on, that comes on. What's something that you have learned through your experiences that has helped you that you'd like to share with somebody who might be going through the same thing?
Well, there's so many things. I think talking about it, some of the things that we've talked about today in my own story, and we talked about like accountability and like authority and things like that. I would say that I spent a lot of time on my journey seeing all of these different opportunities and all of these different paths. And I found myself often stuck in that victim place too of, well, I'm trying so hard and it would be really easy if I didn't have all of these other things, right? And then one day people who have had like illness or chronic pain, it can feel debilitating. And there was a moment on my journey where I realized, wow, I was choosing that. And at that moment, I was able to realize that I was trying to like own my story.
Yeah.
And then at one point I realized, oh, this isn't about owning my story. This is about me realizing that I'm the creator of my story.
Yeah.
And that shift for me was everything.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to go, oh, well, this is how I was raised. This is in my genes, right?
Yeah.
This must be my like cross to bear. This must be my lesson.
Yeah.
And then it was kind of an aha for me of, oh, everything that's going on, I am choosing to be sick. I just need to go figure out why. Yeah. And then after that shift, because when we're kids, we don't know, right?
Yeah.
And just like you shared with the opportunity of going back and being that adult for that younger part of you that couldn't have chosen, right?
Yeah.
And so doing that over and over and over again and of going back and reparenting, I realized, oh, I was choosing it because I didn't know I had a choice. And now I know I do.
Yeah.
And so it's also been a great lesson, like with my own children, of seeing how I wanted to give them more choices. I'm just on that same path with them. I'm learning too, as they're teenagers and they're in their phases of becoming and, you know, deciding who they're going to be or who they're going to be right now.
Yeah.
I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not owning my story. I'm just writing it as I go.
Yeah. I love that.
And so that's, I guess, what I would share.
That's been actually going along with that. That's something that I think it was last summer. So I was diagnosed with ADHD as an adult.
Oh, okay.
And it was very, very helpful for me to have that diagnosis of, oh, this is why I do the things I do. I'm not dumb. I'm not broken. I'm not like, it's just this one little quirk. But as time went on, I adopted that as my identity of people don't understand. I can't do that because blah, 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 blah. Or no, my brain is just different and blah, 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 blah. And so it was very much became this thing of I can or I cannot or will do it differently because of this. And people just don't understand. So it was becoming part of my identity of who I was, of explaining things. And I was actually talking to a friend and she was like, I think that everybody in the room would know that you have ADHD because you do it as almost part of your intro of who you are as a person. And so then I realized like, okay, can I not, what's the word? I'm still acknowledging the fact that it plays a factor in my life. And that I have little hacks for how I do certain things in my life, but it's not who I am as a person. And so taking away that as my identity of it, this plays a factor in my life. It's not who I am though. And not leaning on that as a crutch of I can or I can't do certain things because of this.
I love that.
Yeah. So I love what you said though, of just writing your own story as you go. That's so beautiful.
Thanks.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I might have gotten more out of this conversation than anybody else. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great.
I feel the same way. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share and
Thank you.
See how many parallels that we've had.
Right?
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much for being on here with me.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening to this episode. If you liked what you heard, please remember to subscribe and go leave a review on Apple Podcast. It helps me know what you want to hear and who I should have as a guest next. Thanks again, and until next time, keep living the life of a lotus.